Namaste, one and all. Today I am going to discuss a very crucial or very essential step in research. That is the research proposal. So, preparing and finalizing a research proposal is a very critical step. As you know, it's the backbone of research is how we are preparing and finalizing a research proposal. So it has got three distinct phases. So let us see what are the important phases in preparing and finalizing research proposal. It is research proposal when we consider it as a finite product, but it is not like that because it's a very essential process. So only when we are considering this proposal preparing as a process, then only we can understand what is the importance of this proposal in research. So in preparing a research proposal has three different phases. The first one is the preparation of a draft proposal, and the second is the presentation of this draft before a committee of experts or other group of members. And the third phase is finalizing the proposal after presentation. So these are the three different and most important phases while preparing or in the process of preparing a research proposal. So let us see a format for this research proposal. So this format I have made for my students of education, especially for MD students or master's students, and this format can be utilizable for PhD scholars as well. So let us see what are the important aspects in this presentation. The first one, as you know, it's the title of the study. So when you identify a topic or when you marginalize it into a workable problem, then you have to state it. You have to provide a proper title for your study. So the title should be here. So when you are forming a title, it's very significant because these words in this title will determine how your study will reflected, and what you are going to study will be reflected in the title of your study. So the title should be framed very carefully, and the terms in the title, each term in the title should be very clearly defined, and there is a cycle of activities beginning with this title of the study. So then the other personal and official activities of you, that should be given in the first page. And the first phase actually in the proposal will be the introduction. So it is better not to try to develop introduction at first. So keep it there, the section. And the second section is need and significance. So that's a very essential step, because in this step this should be naturally the first step or the step, the one which we have to do at first to develop a proposal. So at this step you have to conduct relevant review of research studies. So those studies, once you identify an area, once you fix an area, you have to conduct extensive review of related research studies in the area, and that will provide you a guidance for where you are, what is your position, what is the topic of your research at present, and whether there is a long gap, and whether the topic is already covered extensively by other researchers, etc. So that's the first aspect, and you have to add relevant studies in this under this need and significance. So then you will get what title help you to fix your title, and the definition of key terms is the another important aspect, because definition has got a very significant role in the entire conduct of your study, because how you are defined in the definition process, there are two types of definition. One is the definition of a term which is given in some standard dictionary, encyclopedia, etc. about a term. For example, education. The definition of education given by some dictionary or encyclopedia of education. That's it. And that definition provide a theoretical background for your study. So what is this term about? And the second type of definition, the operational definition, provides a guidance on what you are going to do with this term in this study. So what is meant by this study in this specific study? And this definition will give rise to objectives, hypothesis, methods, whatever it is. So this definition is defining is this your key terms is a very essential step. So you will take as much time as possible to define your terms. Define your terms very clearly, then other aspects will be very easy. And the next sections and naturally will be objectives of the study. So what are the objectives? What you are going to investigate in the study is the next step. So it's depending on the study. There will be a difference in nature of objectives, and it is better not to state too many objectives. If a single objective reflects all your purposes, then that's enough. There is no need of preparing a long list of objectives. And research questions. Here in our universities, we have we are not so bothered about research questions, but studies outside India, there is an essential component, essential step in research is framing research questions. You can also write or you can frame some questions, and that will help you to guide through, specify your research. So you can what areas you have to explore and how you can. Two types of central questions as well as procedural questions can be made under research questions. Then hypothesis. Hypothesis can be a single hypothesis or many hypotheses depending on the objectives of the study. So the terms, then objectives and hypothesis, and there is specific way to state hypothesis. It should be stated in a testable form, and it should also reflect what you are expected from this research. Okay, then the major section, the another major section is methodology, and this methodology includes design of the study, method of study, tools and techniques for analysis, and sometimes in qualitative research, then there will be sources of data. So the methodology, the first step is design of the study, how you are planning to design your study. So what all aspects you have to include, what methods you have to choose, and what are tools and techniques, and all these things should be stated in a paragraph. So you are actually planning how to conduct your design, including the procedure, what are the different steps that's under the design of study, and what method. In many proposals as well as many research reports, this heading naturally seen missing, method of study. So this should not be a missed one, it should be an essential step, the method of study, what method you are following. And all these should be, if you are selecting survey method, you have to identify an appropriate quotation regarding this survey, and you have to include this in this proposal, as well as to describe how or what type of survey you are trying to adopt in the study. Then tools and techniques. In certain studies there will be some tools and techniques, and in some studies there will be only techniques. All these things will depend on the nature of the study. So what all tools, and give a list of tools and a list of techniques, as well as a brief description for what purpose you are using these tools and techniques in your study, and as well as the sample and sampling. And it's a what kind of study decides the nature of your sample, as well as the sampling technique. There are various techniques for sample. You might have studied in your research methodology. So you first to identify the population, nature of population, and decide the size of the sample, what kind of sample, what type of study you are. When you are conducting an experiment, and naturally the sample size will be somewhat handy, or the 30 or 40, etc. Or sometimes there are experimental studies conducting in small samples below 20, etc. So then sources of data. Yeah, naturally, for all studies there will be some sources, but mostly in qualitative studies, these sources of data are highly important, because it's mainly relied on different kinds of primary and secondary sources. Then technique of analysis. What technique you have to propose for the study, and it also depending on the nature of study, whether the study is quantitative. About 90 to 95% studies are quantitative studies, and some 2-3% of qualitative and mixed method studies are usually seen in master's level theses. So what kind of your study, that specifies what techniques you have to follow for analysis. So whether it is a quantitative analysis or it is a qualitative analysis, you have to describe here what type of procedure you have to adopt to clarify or to answer your objectives and hypothesis, or you have to reach up to the title, what you mentioned in your title as the proposed work. So some other aspects regarding this framework, some other things you have to consider while preparing a research proposal is that first you have to write the proposal, a draft, and leave it for 24 hours. Don't try to revise it within that 24 hours. Then you have to engage in some other activities. You forget about the proposal. And after some 24 hours, you take the proposal back and try to modify it. Then you will get some changes, some critical changes, and you have to go through this proposal written by yourself, and you can easily change many things. So one, two, or three such revisions shall be made by yourself. Then only you have to submit it to your whoever it is, for a committee or a supervising teacher, whoever it is. So then during presentation you have to prepare a gist of this proposal, as or 5-6 slides, as brief as possible, and by incorporating the suggestions obtained from the experts, you have to finalize your proposal. So that also is a very critical step. And at the end, you have to add references in APA format. I have already had a presentation on APA formatting. You have to refer that for that purpose. And for today, I think this is enough. So thank you one and all for happy proposal preparation.